Welcome back, and to all you first-time viewers, I am Joe. This episode, Funny Games. I came out with two versions. There's the 1997 and the 2007. With that said, let's get into the movies that me up. So I am not alone in the fact that when the US remakes a foreign film, sometimes they miss the mark. They lose the source material. For example, I love Sweden's Let the Right One In, and the US made Let Me In. Both those movies are actually really fucking good. Love them both. So with that, you had a good remake. In some instances, not so much. In this case, something happens that does not happen that often. When you get a remake, you don't usually get the same director and the same writer. So for Funny Games 97 and 2007, both Michael Haneke directed and wrote both versions. Therefore, the source material was not lost, which ends up happening every time the US remakes any foreign film. They stick close enough to it, and then they basically lose the source material. In this movie, it was made both versions freaking awesome. Here's another fun fact for you. Michael directed, as I said, both movies. He did it shot for shot. Do you know the last time that was done? At least to my knowledge, I think it was Psycho. And if you saw the remake of Psycho, that shit bombed. But both versions, again, are equal to each other, which is, like I said, I've seen both. I love both. I'm gonna kind of discuss the original one because that's the first one that I saw. That's the kind of one that hit me a little bit more. I will mention the second one once I get to the part that me up. So what is this movie about? Well, it's kind of like a home invasion. You have these sadistic young fuckers. Oh my God, you end up hating these guys. In the 97 version, Arnold Frisch plays Paul, and in the 2007 remake, Michael Pitt plays Paul, who does an amazing job in the role. As I said, I'm only doing 97, but again, both these actors nailed this fucking role. As much as I love Michael Pitt, Arnold's version of this character, he played him like a true sociopath. Even in the moments when he was smiling, you couldn't see, but when you look, he did it perfectly. He cracked that little smile, just basically showing you how this kid has no empathy. He's got no feelings at all whatsoever. And then you have the character of Peter. He is played by both Frank Gehring and Brady Corbett. Both of them actually did really good in these roles. Here's the other thing, is that not only was Peter Paul's friend, but he was his punching bag throughout the whole entire movie. He kept calling him Tubby and just basically poking at him throughout the whole movie. Let me tell you something. If I had a friend who kept calling me Tubby over and over, we would not be friends because he kept calling me Tubby. We would not be friends because of the shit that I would fucking do to him for calling me Tubby over and over. With the calculation of these kids throughout this movie, you can tell that they have been doing it for a while. So basically what they do is they set their sights on families who are pretty much alone on their holidays. As I said, they target families. So when the movie starts, we're introduced to Anna, played by Suzanne Lothar. And in the 2007 remake, it's played by one of horror faves, Naomi Watts. She did an amazing job in the role. And both women nailed their roles. I mean, when you're watching it, only going to be able to speak on the father part, you can see the pain that these two women were going through watching their husband and child go through all this torment. The dad, or the husband, are played by Ulrich Muhi, and in the US version, another great casting by the director. He got Tim Roth for this role. Both of these men nailed their roles. Again, I'm telling you guys, I'm only focusing on the 97 version, but check both movies out. On the way, the family notices their neighbors are outside, and they stop to say hello to them, remind them of the golf game that they're gonna play. It's kind of an awkward interaction. You know, they leave, telling them I'll see you later. Georgie is the first to realize that their daughter was not there. I was trying to pay attention to where they were going on vacation, because I'm gonna start a list of places that I'm not gonna go. We're starting with Kent, Connecticut. Still love Connecticut. Yeah, I didn't see where they were going, so I'm just going to go ahead and take Germany off my list, and when I rewatch the US version, I'll find out exactly where they went. and then I'm going to take them off the list too. George's neighbor ends up coming over with Paul and introduces him to Georg. While this is going on, Peter ends up showing up and he says that Ava sent him over for some eggs. I actually watched this last night, and once I was watching it, you kind of started seeing exactly what the plan was. I think I watched the 97 version about 3 times, last night being my 4th, the US version twice. Last night I was paying a little attention, because the show for us and for you guys, and realized that I needed to focus, and you saw exactly what he was setting up for this movie. As I said, this is a home invasion movie. It's a little bit on a different level. The killer stalks the person they're gonna kill, or they just outright kill them once they get into the house. These fucking motherfuckers, they like to play games with their victims, basically slowly torturing them, knowing that you're gonna fucking die. I love when directors throw the title in the movie. That way, if you hear it, you know it. So in this one, they do the same thing. So what ends up happening is that Rolfie, the family's dog, when Peter goes outside, ends up jumping and scaring Peter, who drops the eggs. Now, mind you, he showed up earlier, dropped 4 eggs, which you knew he was just delaying time. Well, supposedly, Rolfie jumps on him, scares him, and he drops the eggs. When he comes back in, both Paul and Peter are there, and she talks to them and says it's a dog, and the dogs play funny games. Well, shortly after she says that, the funny games start. Paul bashes Georg's leg with one of the golf clubs. Paul ends up telling Anna and the family that he practiced with a golf club and he didn't use a golf club. So the next game that he plays with them is hot and cold. Anna starts to realize what she's looking for is Rolfie. Rolfie is the family dog. So as she's going outside and he's telling her hot, cold, 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 turns around and finally gets to the part where it's hot. She opens up the door and she finds Rolfie dead. Obviously, Paul had used the golf club to bash the dog in. And then the second game starts. So in this one, what Paul did, he made a bet with Anna. If I heard this bet, honestly, I would try to figure something the fuck out of here. But anyway, so Paul's bet with Anna was, you're going to be dead by 9 o'clock in the morning. However, if you make it to 9 o'clock in the morning, you get to survive. Then we get into the next game. And this is what fucked me up. And we're gonna need a shot for this. Then we start the next game. Paul and Peter want to play the countdown game. So the way that this game is going to play out is he's going to start counting down. At the end of the countdown, that person gets to live. So we got 3 here. So at the end of the countdown, once you eliminate the 3rd one and you got the 2nd one, that person who was not at the end of the countdown is going to get shot. Can you imagine having to sit there and knowing that basically one of your family members is about to get shot, all based on a countdown? You're tied up, there's nothing you can do. I mean, like some kind of really fucked up shit. This is why I don't like home invasion movies. Paul starts the countdown, then he gets up and tells Peter to finish the countdown. So while Peter's finishing the countdown, just to really show how much he doesn't give a fuck, he gets up, goes into the kitchen, and starts making a sandwich. Now, all you hear is a television going off. So when I say you hear silence, meaning you don't hear the voices of the family members, it's just really the television blaring in the background as Paul's making the sandwich. The silence is broken. You hear a shotgun. Again, some more silence. The TV's on, but when I said silence, you know what you're listening for. And then you hear Anna and Georg screaming. Literally at that moment that you realize that Georgie is the one that was shot. Before you even see what's about to come, you're already feeling like, oh man, this is fucked up. It's a kid. For 35 seconds, the shot is basically a blood-soaked TV and wall. You catch yourself looking, blood is dripping, and you kind of know what's about to come, but at the same time, you're still kind of not expecting it. But those 35 seconds were a long 35 seconds, especially when I rewatched this last night. I was not a parent when I first watched the movie in 97. In 2007, when I saw the remake, I was a parent. So this next part, is just fucking brutal. I could not imagine what it would be like to be a parent and just sit there just to see what's coming up next. For 2.5 minutes, you then get a shot with Anna sitting there in silence, but you end up making out that Georgie is there in the corner next to the TV. And the more you keep looking, you realize this fucking kid got his head blown off. And no matter how much you keep trying to look everywhere else, you end up looking back at him. And like I said, as a parent, I could not have imagined if I'd been in this situation, if I see my son Zach laying there with his fucking head blown off. This shit just me all up, man. The acting by Suzanne was brilliant. I mean, honestly, when she sat there in silence, I can see my own self sitting there just kind of in shock of what I just saw, especially with my child. I probably would truly have reacted the same way in that moment. I fear home invasions. I mean, when I first saw The Strangers, the minute that lady said, because you were home, I paused it. I went and put like the locks on everything. So I don't like home invasions. They kind of freak me out. As a parent, I'm not a fan of violence. I'm not a fan of children being killed in movies. For decades, Michael Myers had not killed a child until we got to the 2018 version, I think it was. And I was not even happy then when he did that. Yeah, so honestly, with that said, after that fucking cry, it would be on like Donkey Kong. I know I'm gonna fucking die. And guess what? 1 or 2 of these motherfuckers are gonna be coming down with me. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Watch this movie. I do recommend it. I know that I said it fucked me up. I'm a firm believer in horror movies. You gotta watch everything that's out there. And you even gotta watch movies that mentally fuck you up so that way you can recuperate a little bit better. And it makes us all tough. So you cannot wait for either Anna or Georg to kill one of these motherfuckers. They're playing one more game. Anna gets the gun. She fucking shoots Peter. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. Kill that motherfucker. Paul grabs the gun and then starts looking for the remote control, which is kind of weird, but I'm explaining to you why. And this movie just double fucks you, actually. So through this movie, you actually have Paul taking moments where he looks at us and then talks to us, basically breaking the fourth wall. He ends up taking that remote control. He rewinds it, again breaking the fourth wall, and he goes back to the point when they start the game. When they do start the game, because he already knows what Anna's going to do, he ends up grabbing the gun from her. He scolds her. He then tells her, you broke the rules. Turns around and shoots George. So truthfully, this movie leaves you unfulfilled. Tune in next week. Shit. I'm gonna have to watch this movie one more time. So next week, I'm going to be doing Salo or 120 Days of Sodom. If you saw this movie, then you already know it's up. It is a up movie. Until then, I will see you guys next week. Ta-ta for now.